away.
Hello everyone, and a very warm welcome to Rob's Jazz Club. I'm Rob Chantler and I'm with you every Sunday between 1 and 3 p.m. with 2 hours of lovely jazz. And this week I have an interview with Sara Dowling just after 1:30, and we'll hear some of her music and talk about some forthcoming gigs. Plus I have on my playlist, as well as Sara, Scott Hamilton, Sonny Chris, Wynton Kelly, Shelley Mann, Jimmy Smith, Tommy Smith, no relation, Donna Tucker, Eric Alexander, Claire Martin, Johnny Hodges, Lalo Schifrin, and possibly some more people as well, depends on the time. We begin today with 3 tributes to jazz and blues and soul musicians who've passed away in the last 7 days. Regular listeners will know we always begin the show with these, and our first tribute today is to soul, jazz, blues, R&B and gospel singer Kim Massey. And before we learn a little bit about Kim, here she is live with the Solomon Douglas Swingtet and a cover of Feelin' Good.
All right. Birds flying high, you know how I feel. Sun in the sky, you know how I feel. Breeze drifting on by, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. It's a new life for me, and I'm feeling good. Fish in the sea, you know how I feel. Running free, you know how I feel. Blossom in the tree, you know how I feel. It's a new dawn, it's a new day, it's a new life for me. And I'm feeling good. Dragonfly out in the sun, you know what I mean, don't you know? Butterflies all having fun, you know what I mean. Sleep in peace when day is done, now that's what I mean. And this whole world is a new world and a bold world for me. Stars when you shine, you know what I mean, don't you know? It's a new dawn. It's a new day. It's a new life for me. Oh, and I'm feeling
So, to tell you a little bit about Kim, first of all, I have been unable to find an exact birth date for her, though I really have tried. But we do know she was born in 1957 in St. Louis, and we know that she died on the 12th of October, aged 63. And she performed mostly in Missouri, and her earliest musical experiences were actually in gospel choirs. She didn't have any formal training as a vocalist, but she spent her formative years in Cleveland in Ohio and then returned home to pursue her dreams of performing as a vocalist, and was very soon discovered by a saxophonist called Oliver Sane, and soon afterwards she formed her own band called the Solid Senders, whereafter she made frequent appearances at blues dance events and festivals coast to coast, including the Blues Rising Festival in San Francisco and the Emerald City Blues Festival in Seattle. She won 2 Best Female Vocalist of the Year awards from the Riverfront Times and starred in a 2003 production of It Ain't Nothing But the Blues at her local Repertory Theatre. And in 2005, she won a Grand Centre Visionary Award. And she died on the 12th of October, aged 63. We're now going to pay tribute to Japanese avant-garde and jazz fusion trumpeter Toshinori Kondo. And before we learn a little bit about Toshinori, we're going to hear him in action now, and a piece called Splinters. So, to tell you a little bit about Toshinori, he was born on the 15th of December 1948 in Ehime Prefecture, and he died on the 17th of October in Kawasaki City, aged 71. He attended Kyoto University in 1967 and became close friends with a percussionist called Shuchitori Toshiyuki. And in 1972, they left university and Toshiyuki went on to work with Peter Brook, while Toshinori joined Yosuke Yamashita. And then he moved to New York and began performing with people like Bill Laswell, Eraldo Benocci, and John Zorn. And then a year later, he released his first recording. He toured Europe with Eugene Chadbourne, played with some other European musicians, then returned to Japan and worked with Ryuichi Sakamoto and Kazumi Watanabe, among others. In the mid-80s, he began focusing on his own career, blending his avant-garde origins with electronic music, and in the 90s, he joined a collective called Die Like a Dog, whose first album was Fragments of Music, Life and Death of Albert Ayler. It was released in 1994. And then in 2002, he worked on an international peace festival in Hiroshima, approached by the Dalai Lama, no less, to organise it. He was also a former member of Praxis and cooperated with Bill Laswell to make an album called Inamorata in 2007. He also had one shot at being a film director, directing a film called Blow the Earth in Japan. And that concludes our tribute to Toshinori. Our third tribute today is to Hal Singer. And before we learn about Hal, we're going to hear him now in a track called Malcolm X. you a little bit about Hal. He was born on the 8th of October in 1919 in Tulsa in Oklahoma, and he died on the 18th of August, although his death has only just been notified, aged 100 in Chatou in France. He was a jazz and R&B saxophonist. He grew up in Greenwood, where he studied violin, actually, as a child. But then when he was a teenager, he switched to clarinet and then to tenor saxophone, and that became the instrument of choice for him. And then from the late 1930s, he began playing in local bands. And then in early 1948, he formed his own small group and was signed to Mercury Records, where he cut his first single called Fine as Wine. And then for the Savoy label of Newark, New Jersey, he recorded the instrumental Corn Bread, which was very sort of rock and rolly, and that made #1 on the R&B charts in September 1948 and gave him a new popularity. But the following year, he brought out another hit called Beef Stew, which didn't do so well. However, he still continued to record for Mercury in the 50s. He toured with R&B artists such as the Orioles, and he increasingly worked as a session musician. And then towards the end of the 50s, he began recording with Prestige Records as a jazz soloist and performed at the Metropole Cafe in New York with leading jazz musicians such as Roy Eldridge and Coleman Hawkins. And in 1965, after a tour around Europe with L. Father Hines' band, he stayed in France to settle near Paris, continuing to record and touring and playing with various bands, including the Duke Ellington Orchestra. He appears on a 1981 live recording called Rocket 88 with the UK-based Boogie Woogie band of the same name. And also in the summer of 1981, he visited London, where he recorded 2 albums for John Stedman's record label JSP. He has also appeared in a feature film called Taxi Blues. He won a French Academy Award for the Best International LP in 1969 and was awarded the Chevalier des Arts in 1974. A documentary film, Hal Singer, Keep the Music Going, was made by Haitian-American director Gweti Phelan in 1999 in collaboration with the CNC in France and the French cable music network Musique. And that brings us to the end of all 3 of our tributes today on Rob's Jazz Club. So, as I say, after 1:30, we're going to hear from Sara Dowling. And to take us there, we're going to now hear from Lalo Schifrin and a track called The Fox. Lalo Schifrin there, playing to a very appreciative live audience in a track called The Fox. Now it's time for a couple of trailers. After we come back from those, we're going to hear two tracks from Sara Dowling. One from her first album, Shadows into Light, called You've Got My Heart on a String. And then one from her second album, The Two Sides of Sara, called After You Get What You Want. And then you can hear our interview, which we recorded earlier in the week, and hear all about Sara and her forthcoming gigs here on Rob's Jazz Club on Radio Way.
Every Sunday afternoon, Helen Julia Miners presents her show, Helen's Classical Journey. Tune in to share a meditative moment each week. Listen to her back-to-back scenes from film and screen, or movements from classical works. Each week, Helen will share her passion for classical music and share something of its cultural context and creative origins, its use in popular culture, and its fascinating stories behind the works. She'll even share a few quirky composer quotes each week. That's Helen's Classical Concert, every Sunday afternoon from 4 p.m. here on Radio Way.
Saturdays, 8 till 10. Radio Way, The Soul Shuffle. 2 hours of disco, soul and funk. Yours truly, Paul Clench, on Radio Way. The Soul Shuffle, every Saturday, 8 till 10.
Radio Way. You got my heart on a string, entwined in your arms as you pull me in. A love like ours took the joy out of spring. Darling, got my heart on a string. You never let me go. Through those windswept days of driving rain, how will I ever learn to grow? You could have carried me like a flame burning in your soul. Darling, why keep my heart on your string? My world became so silent in your cruel fascination. My eyes shone bright like diamonds. Was I just in your imagination? You got my heart on a string. Like a fool I've stayed, the colors drained from everything. And a love like ours couldn't get any worse than this. Now my love has waned, it grows thin. silent in your cruel fascination. My eyes shine bright like diamonds. Was I just in your imagination? You got my heart on a string. Like a fool I stayed. The colors drained from everything. And a love like ours couldn't get any worse than this. Now my love has waned. It grows thin. Get what you want, you don't want it. If I gave you the moon, you'll grow tired of it soon. You're like a baby. You get what you want when you want it. But after you are presented with what you want, you're discontented. You're always wishing and wanting for something. When you get what you want, you don't want what you get. And though I sit upon your knee, and you'll grow tired of me, 'cause after you get what you want, you don't want what you wanted at all. You get what you want, you don't want it. If I gave you the moon, you'll grow tired of it soon. You're like a baby. You get what you want when you want it. But after you are presented with what you want, you're discontented. You're always wishing and wanting for something. When you get what you want, you don't want what you get. And though I sit upon your knee, and you'll grow tired of me, 'cause after you get what you want, you don't want what you wanted at all. Baby, I don't mean to be blue, but you need a good talking to. 'Cause after you get what you want, you don't want what you wanted at all. At all.
Well, I'm in conversation today with Sara Dowling, British Jazz Awards Best Vocalist for 2019, among other accolades. Hello, Sara.
Hello, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you. Welcome to Rob's Jazz Club. Very nice to talk to you. the listeners will know about you and your work already, I thought it might just be nice to just talk a little bit about yourself, because you've had a really fascinating journey, haven't you, to where
yeah.
you've got.
It hasn't been a traditional journey, let's say, to being a jazz singer. But yeah, I mean, I started out as a classical musician. So I took up piano and cello quite early on. I started learning piano when I was about 9, and the cello when I was 10 or 11. And then at the age of 12, I auditioned for a music school up in Manchester called Chetham's. And I was there for from the age of 12 to 18 years old. After that, I went to music college, conservatoire still in Manchester. I decided to stay in Manchester because I did love that city so much. And I went to the Royal Northern College of Music, once again, as a cellist. So, yeah. So there's no singing in sight yet.
Did you ever do any singing when you were little and you just hadn't realised that maybe it was something you might do one day? Or
yeah,
was it all about the cello?
I think, because the cello played such a central part of my life, and it took so much of my time. We had to do a lot of practice in order to kind of maintain one's technique and learn all of that repertoire that goes with being a cellist. Singing didn't have I didn't have enough time to do that, even though I was part of the chamber choir at Chetham's, and we would do concerts around the country sometimes. As a young child, I did love singing a lot, just as a hobby. But I never took it seriously. I never had a singing lesson, if that makes sense. So even though I loved doing it, it wasn't part of my life.
When you passed the jazz club in Manchester and you realised that was your destiny, if you like, I just wondered, did you actually do some singing? Did you was it like an open mic night or something where you kind of just went in and had a go?
Yes. Well, actually, I think an important thing to consider at that point was I was, because I had given up the cello at the end of my music college years.
Yeah.
I stepped back from music entirely. So I went to the Middle East for a year. I took a year out, and then when I got back, I embarked upon a postgraduate certificate of secondary education. So I became essentially a classroom teacher, of which I had already been teaching for about 2 to 3 years at that point. As much as I loved classroom teaching, and I learned a huge amount about myself and about how to perform and make people love what you're delivering. So I'm so glad that did actually happen, but I missed being on the stage. So I was craving any occasion to be able to perform. And I did love jazz because my father always listened to jazz, and so I did know some jazz standards. So I went into the club that night, and they had an open mic night. So I came back later on that night, and I decided to get up and sing a jazz standard. There was a wonderful pianist there who's a great pianist in Manchester called Dan Wheeldon. And he was there, and he gave me a lot of encouragement and support to say, no, go on, get up on stage, but perhaps don't sing this song that you want to sing. Maybe sing something like All of Me that everyone will know, etc. So I tried. I tried to do it, and I never felt freedom like that in my life. I think that's the only word to describe it. And I felt that I could express myself truly. And that I think that's where it started.
You've listed quite a few of the really great ladies of jazz as your influences, like Sarah Vaughan and Ella and so on. But you've got a special place in your heart for Betty Carter, haven't you? I do. What's the really special quality about Betty that you just admire more than anything else?
That's a really lovely question that I don't think anyone's actually ever asked me. And it's a very relevant question to how I approach my music. What really inspires me the most about Betty Carter is not that I want to sing like her, because there's only going to ever be one Betty Carter, as there is one Sara Vaughan and one Ella Fitzgerald. What I loved was the fact that she came back to it later on in her life. And whilst everyone was getting into rock and roll and pop and all that stuff, she was still very true to being a jazz singer. And she had to fight against all the odds to stick to her artistic intentions and the journey that she wanted to continue as a jazz singer and make an example of. So she didn't kind of succumb to what the record labels wanted from her. She didn't kind of fall to the repertoire that perhaps she thought she should sing in order to gain fame. She set up her own label, a label Bet Cart, of which later on she signed a lot of great jazz musicians on it. And she set up her own label in order to be able to release music that truly reflected her artistry. And for me, that's a true jazz singer, you know, and her ability, of course, to lead a band with as much strength as a horn player would in the jazz realm. You know, it's she's inspiring on so many levels, but those two particular reasons are the ones that inspire me the most.
And as well as your performance, you do a lot of composing as well.
Yeah, I love writing songs, and I think I have for a very, very long time, actually. And it was only when I first came to London that I got involved in some songwriting for bits of library music and things like that. So it wasn't on a very serious level, but I love the process of writing lyrics and melody and everything together. It's a very hard process. It's a very tiring one, because you know it has to be sincere, and it's hard to get that sincerity on paper. You know, I don't know. It's a difficult one to explain. But yes, I love songwriting.
Because you play the piano as well, don't you? So I guess that's how you write your songs, is it? You just sort of sit at the piano and.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to play guitar, so I've always, yeah. I mean, if you saw me play guitar, you'd be horrified. But yeah, so the piano is my main writing tool, and it's my tool to practice and learn songs and develop myself as a musician. On the whole, you know. So the piano, I think, is something that I do more than singing, for my own practice, you know. So yeah, I write a lot of songs on the piano.
Are you able to tell us anything about your new album, the forthcoming album, or is it all very hush hush?
You know, I am well, I'm happy to tell you something about it, but I have chosen to not really speak a lot about it because it's going to be so different. And I guess it's difficult for me to prove how different it's going to be when I don't have any music out there that reflects that yet. So it's probably going to come out with a bang, which I intend it to do.
Excellent.
But yes, it's a lot of original compositions on there, of which would be a mixture of perhaps going back to some of my classical roots, you know, in terms of drawing upon classical harmony. So it's not very traditional jazz harmony, but I would say it's mixed with kind of those hard bop rhythmic textures. So it's still very much within a jazz frame, but I'm, you know, they're basically trying to reflect my sound and how I sound as a vocalist. So I hope I can do it justice.
Is it coming out this year now, or is it next year now?
Well, because of all the because of this year being so difficult for absolutely everybody, it's a big delay on that. I was going to record in October actually, this month, but I don't have the funds to do it. So I'm just trying to find a way to be able to collect those funds for next year and to record it in January, hopefully. That's my aim.
And that'll be your third album?
Yes, my third album, exactly.
Yeah, fantastic.
Very, very different to the first two.
Tell us about your gig at the Crazy Coqs.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
Is that the first live one you've done for a while, I should think,
Yeah,
isn't it?
I mean, I've had one gig that I did in France.
Yeah.
And just the sheer thrill of being in the same room as other human beings that love jazz is something I can't put into words. And I miss it so much, and that's why I hope the audience are going to be ready for this. They're going to witness a crazy jazz singer who can't wait to unleash some songs to them. So I'm so looking forward to it, and JBGB events have put on a wonderful series of many other vocalists, Claire Teal, Claire Martin, Tina May. Oh gosh, I know I'm missing out on the vocalists here. So I'm so honoured to be amongst those wonderful ladies at the Crazy Cocks, and I have a wonderful programme ready. For apparently it's sold out. So
fantastic. This is with your trio, isn't it?
Yes, my trio will be a wonderful young jazz pianist called Sam Watts, who is an impressive musician on all levels, I have to say. We just did a rehearsal the other day, and he just took my breath away. His playing is really exquisite. And on bass is my favourite bass player, and everyone would say I'm biased because he's my husband, but before he was my husband, I only knew him as a bass player, and I think he really understands this music from his gut, you know. And I feel honoured every time I sing with Dario Di Lecce, who's going to be on bass. Yeah.
And if are you doing some other gigs in London later on if people want to come?
Yeah. Well, I have one other gig at the Vortex on the 7th of November.
Right.
And that's once again going to be a trio gig. And I'm so looking forward to that. But there's still lots of tickets left for that one, I think.
Lovely. Right, we'll give that a mention then.
And then I have an online gig on the 27th of November for the Global Music Foundation. So all of those are on my website, which is just my name, saradowling.co.uk. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much for talking to me. And
thank you, Rob.
I really hope it goes well. It sounds really exciting.
No, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to me and asking interesting questions as well.
I'll do my best to see if I can come to the Vortex one.
Oh wow, it'd be wonderful to meet you.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay.
Thank you for talking to us.
Take care.
Good luck with everything.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And since that interview, I did get a ticket for the Vortex Jazz Club gig. Just to give you the details, it's 11 Gillett Square in London. It's North London, and the nearest station is Dalston Kingsland, which is on the Overground network. And it's 7:30 p.m. and tickets are £20, and you can book them by following the links on Sara's website, or presumably at the Vortex Jazz Club's website as well. So there we are. Thank you very much, Sara, and I'm sure we will bring you some tracks from her new album and maybe talk again when that comes out next year. Now we're going to hear from Scott Hamilton and Serenade in Blue. Scott Hamilton there, and Serenade in Blue. Very nice mellow track. Well, next we have the Sonny Chris Quartet with Wynton Kelly. Sonny is on the alto sax, Wynton is on the piano, Bob Cranshaw is on the bass, Walter Perkins is on the drums, and Ollie Hansen is on the trombone, and it's called Sweet Lorraine.